Before we go to the next question, because this was also quite popular, is it fair to say, because I just love some definitive markers, and maybe that's my fundamentalist inside me, because I used to tell people like, oh, we want to buy our first home. I'm like, all right, well, don't bother calling the mortgage broker until you've got 10% of the purchase price. Like, because the reality is, unless you have a parental guarantee, like you need at least 10% saved. Now, the world has changed a bit, and Rach, you're looking at me, so do you want to refute that? But I just want some, like, okay, some fundamental things. You've got to try and get out of consumer debt and at least do the Glen James spending plan, and at least do not be living week to week. And, you know, you've got to really focus on your personal cash flow and spending. Because if you want, there are so many people in our Facebook group that they write, hey, I just purchased my first property. It's an hour and a half out of whatever town. Actually, Azaria, a good friend of the show, she used to host our Gen Z Money podcast. She's a single lady. She's in her 30s. No, she's not. She's in her late 20s. Don't call people lady. It's too old. But so Azaria, she bought her first unit. She's single, got a good city income, but it can be done. And this is why we need to just encourage you. If you want something that bad, it's going to be sacrifice. It's going to be a season of focusing, and it can be done. So any final kind of points on that before we get to this other?
Yeah, look, I think you've got to have some sort of motivation to do something in life, don't you? And if it is buying your first property, if you are going through consumer debt and you're trying to get rid of that and you maybe haven't got a savings plan together, I'm not actually against going and speaking to the likes of Rach and saying, well, okay, this is where I am. I'm owning this. I'm trying to get on top of it, and these are things I'm doing. But what's possible for me? What do I need? What sort of deposit do I need? And
set up some train tracks for me.
Yeah, this is my income. And all of a sudden you've got this whole vision board in front of you that says, wow, this is unreal. As opposed to saying, well, once I've paid my 20 grand of consumer debt, now I'll go and do that. But in the meantime, it's been a slog. I don't know. You're always looking ahead for me to get some motivation, some inspiration internally.
So do you talk to many people? They're like, oh, we want to buy a property. Can you at least give us a savings target if a parental guarantee isn't available?
Absolutely, we do. So I would say our brokers would talk to people who are at the start of their journey. So it could be that they are getting rid of a few consumer debts, they're starting to save, and they're deciding what to pay off first. So it might be a little credit card, and then they've got their help debt and a car loan. They actually want to know what's actually the most effective to pay off first. Then how much do we need to save? Because how hard is it to start a big journey and a goal if you don't even know what it is? What are the goalposts? How much do I need to save? So even if it's a plan to save for 6 months or 12 months, you still need to know what that figure is. And I think it's a lot easier to go about the journey of getting ready if you have spoken to someone you know exactly what you're going for.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's no doubt about that. And I think everyone's different in the way they go about it and the way they draw inspiration to move forward as well.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many listeners of the podcast that we've spoken to that have said, we're actually calling you a year before we're ready, but we heard you speak and we just want to have a bit of a chat, a bit of a discovery call. And then after a conversation, they actually find out they're not as far off as they thought. There are other things there that they didn't know about, and that might be different government incentives that they weren't aware they were eligible for. Or it could be, oh, well, my parents thought a parental guarantee was this. They didn't actually understand that it was this. So, there's other things that are uncovered along the way.
And that's it. Like you asked me this morning when I was up on a ladder trying to concentrate and set up lights, you're like, what do you think of the government equity,
shared equity, yeah.
And I'm like, well, not every product or not every solution is for everyone. Now, if you speak with the broker and they're like, oh, hey, this could be a good thing, you need to know that you can't knock down 3 walls and, do some renovations and all that. But I just think you've got to use all the tools available. And, we are recording this and we'll ignore any of the election announcements and whatnot, because this episode will go up after the election. And we really just want people to, I don't know, just make sure you're well informed about the options that are available.
So Rach maybe needs to set up a hotline, 1300 help me, for people that are 2 years out, 18 months out, that, well, not even, they don't know where they are really. Like, and I know you're not a total charity, and it's an exaggeration, but I think you're right. Like, talk earlier than you think you need, because there may be answers that you're not seeing right now.
Well, that's why we do that discovery call. It's 15 minutes. It might be a year out before you're ready, but you're not wasting anyone's time for 15 minutes just to have a chat.
Yeah. All right. In finishing this week, thought I'd give everyone a bit of an update, bit of a breakup story, John.
Ooh, you're no longer with your partner?
No, but that's not the breakup I'm talking about.
Right. What are you referring to?
I had a breakup. One of the property managers that I have.
Right.
With a couple of properties.
Do you have a disagreement?
No, it was more I don't like incompetence.
No.
And for those who have investment properties out there, this is what I want to bring up, because it does flow through, because I want to be the best property owner, landlord that I can be for my tenants.
Yeah.
And, a couple of the properties were managed with one company and it was awesome, it was fine, good.
Yeah.
They sold that rent roll and another business took it over.
Yeah.
And it's just been sloppy for the last 12, 18 months.
Yeah, that old story.
And some examples, and because my whole thing was, if you're not on top of it with me, who's paying you, I'm your customer, how are you going to be on top of it if my tenants have issues?
Yeah.
How are you going to be on top of it if this financial asset has issues?
Yeah.
So a couple of things, like when they first kind of were doing the call around, and I said to them, I'm like, I get it. It's, it's not ideal, but I'll work with you, because I'm not of the view that one thing goes wrong and I'll end a professional relationship, because I get that things get busy and ball gets dropped. Like some of the best professionals in the world, there will be little mistakes that just happen, and you've got to have grace. And, I think they dropped the ball 3 times with some issues, but it was more the basic communication stuff.
Right.
They called me one day after I'd been dealing with them, and it was another lady. Hey, Glenn, it's so-and-so, just calling about this property. I'm the new manager. I'm like, yep, sweet. Hung up. Next minute, phone call. Oh, hey, I'm calling about this property. I'm like.
You just rang me?
Call her Debbie. I'm like, Debbie, this is the Glenn that you literally just spoke to.
Yeah.
So just from a basic one, what the hell are your systems to not say that, Glen James, we have these assets.
Yeah.
Just a bit of forward thinking and looking at the situation.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks later, had a phone call. Hey, it's so-and-so from the same agency. Just wondering, that property there at, Blue Bay or whatever, is, that, are you living in it or is it tenant? I'm like, you guys manage that property. Literally your company that you're calling me from manages that property. And so there was that. There was some issues with, and I think when you are a property owner, you've got to have the view, like, I want the places that I own to be upkept enough that I would want to live in there. Hey, it's Glenn here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.